I'm Doug Boynton, and this is WHRO's Weekly Edition, highlighting the week's news and stories happening across our area. First, happy Independence Day from all of us here at Weekly Edition. In this week's program, North Carolina Senator Thom Tillis bucks President Trump, then says he won't run for re-election. The Navy's USNS Harvey Milk is getting a name change under orders from the Trump administration. And researchers have discovered evidence of an ancient asteroid hitting the Chesapeake Bay.
The amount of destruction that you'd have seen would have been totally torn up, burned up, and vaporized.
It's WHRO's Weekly Edition. Hampton won its 5th All-America City honors from the National League of Cities. It's the only Virginia city among the 10 recognized this past weekend. WHRO's Nick McNamara reports.
Hampton, Virginia! A delegation from the Peninsula City was in Denver for the award, including Mayor Jimmy Gray, who says he's proud of the work across the city that earned it its 2nd award in 3 years.
And really from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for seeing the work that we've done and believing in what we've done and what we're accomplishing in our communities.
It's the National League of Cities' 76th year sponsoring the awards, this year focused on the role of community engagement in advancing environmental sustainability and resilience. Hampton's initiatives and programs like its Clean City Commission, the Phoebus Living Shoreline Project, and resilience planning in the flood-prone, historically black Aberdeen Gardens neighborhood helped the city take home the honor. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
North Carolina Republican Senator Thom Tillis says he will not seek a 3rd term. The announcement comes after he voted against President Donald Trump's big spending bill. WHRO's Ryan Murphy has more.
Tillis broke with his party to vote against Trump's divisive domestic policy and spending bill, what the president calls the Big Beautiful Bill. The 2-term senator says 663,000 North Carolina residents would lose their health care plans under the bill's proposed Medicaid cuts. After Tillis came out against the bill, Trump attacked him online and wrote he'd meet with primary challengers to unseat the 64-year-old senator. Tillis says he'd rather spend time with his wife, children, and grandchildren than navigate the political theater and partisan gridlock in Washington. Despite Tillis's opposition, the spending bill narrowly moved ahead in the Senate over the weekend and now faces a full debate in that chamber. Ryan Murphy, WHRO News.
Geologists have uncovered new evidence from an ancient asteroid that hit the Chesapeake Bay. They say what happened next was a tsunami that reached the sandhills of North Carolina. WHRO's Catherine Hafner reported that story.
35 million years ago, Hampton Roads was underwater. Dinosaurs were long gone, but the ocean teemed with marine life. That is, until one unfortunate day when an asteroid hurtled out of space and landed in what's now the bay. Rich Whitaker with Old Dominion University says if you were standing there,
The amount of destruction that you'd have seen would have been getting totally torn up, burned up, and vaporized.
He helped with research that is the first to document impacts of the collision far away, 240 miles away, in Moore County, North Carolina. That's where retired geologist Bob Gannis happened upon a rock formation he could not make sense of. The material didn't match anything in the area.
I left baffled. It was a point of mystery.
It took years of detective work, but the team found remnants in North Carolina of a massive tsunami caused by the asteroid. Now they're on the hunt for more clues. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
And you can read more about the research at WHRO.org. Still ahead on Weekly Edition, James City County is looking at ways to address housing costs. But first, the Navy says the next aircraft carrier will miss its delivery date. WHRO military reporter Steve Walsh was on that story.
Navy and industry officials have been hinting for weeks that John F. Kennedy would not be ready on time. HII's Newport News shipbuilding was scheduled to deliver the second Ford-class aircraft carrier next month. According to a Navy spokesman, the carrier will not be ready by its contractual delivery date in July 2025. Navy and the shipbuilder are assessing production schedules. They want to come up with a plan to deliver the ship and allow eventual fleet operations. Huntington Ingalls Industries has cited supply chain issues and the lack of experienced workers among the reasons for the delay. The USS Ford experienced similar delays. The carrier just left Hampton Roads for its second deployment in 18 months. Steve Walsh, WHRO News.
Last week's heat wave did not break any records in Hampton Roads, but it did approach the earliest on record. WHRO's Catherine Hafner reports.
A heat wave consists of multiple days with a feels-like heat index of at least 105 degrees. Last week it reached 113 in Norfolk, and that was in the shade. Lead meteorologist Jeff Orrock with the National Weather Service in Wakefield says these events typically occur in July, if at all.
If you start looking at some of the climate records over the last 30 years, this is one of the earlier heat waves that we have seen.
He says temperatures were also about 10 degrees higher than normal during the day and at night.
The heat builds. The temperatures at night don't drop down as much, so you're not getting much overnight relief.
That can be deadly for people who work outside or don't have access to air conditioning. Almost 350 people went to urgent or emergency care with heat-related illness last week in southeastern Virginia. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
A circuit court judge voided Virginia Beach's district-based local election system imposed by the federal courts. Now the focus is on a pending voter referendum. WHRO's Ryan Murphy has more.
A state court says the city acted illegally when it adopted an ordinance in 2023 to codify the 10-council district system without a corresponding charter change. The judge didn't say how it should fix it. Residents will vote in November on whether they want to keep the 10-district system or restore 3 at-large council seats. If a charter change is required, it must be approved by the General Assembly. Virginia Beach Delegate Barry Knight opposed the charter change in 2024 when it did pass the full legislature, but was vetoed by Governor Glenn Youngkin.
I just wanted the citizens of Virginia Beach to control their own destiny like they had with previous referendums without any charter changes.
Knight says he and his General Assembly colleagues will respect the result of the referendum. A 2023 poll showed 81% of Virginia Beach residents supported the 10-district system. Ryan Murphy, WHRO News.
James City County is exploring a new approach to housing affordability. WHRO's Nick McNamara reports.
County staff have explored the community land trust model since January. They will have a feasibility plan by September detailing what it would take to get one started in James City County.
It is a model that separates the ownership of the land from the house to make the home more affordable to the homeowner. And it also ensures affordability of the home in perpetuity.
That's County Neighborhood Development Administrator Vaughn Poehler. Though novel to James City County, the model dates back to the civil rights movement. There are now about 350 trusts in the U.S. and 5 in Virginia. Generally optimistic, county supervisors now look to the fall for answers to questions on how the nonprofit trust could be organized and how it could be funded. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
Officials on the Middle Peninsula are asking local property owners to register online for help with flooding. WHRO's Catherine Hafner has the details.
The Fight the Flood program aims to help home and business owners adapt to climate change by fixing things like flooded septic tanks and eroding shoreline. Louis Lawrence with the Middle Peninsula Planning District Commission says the rural area is vulnerable to rising waters because of both its low-lying geography and limited economy.
This challenge that we have as a coastal cancer that is eating up the tax base and eating up people's property. So the commission gave me a directive: don't let your people drown on your watch.
He says residents often don't know how to get help. That's where Fight the Flood comes in. People can register online with information about their property's flooding issues. Staff then connect them to opportunities for grants, loans, or partnerships with companies that are testing climate solutions. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
And you can learn more at fightthefloodva.com. A rising ninth grader from Virginia is headed to the National Civics Bee this fall after winning the state earlier this month in Williamsburg. It all started with an essay about excessive screen time. Cynthia Vaca Davis has the details for WHRO.
Neil Honda thinks his peers don't get enough information about why screen time can be harmful. It's why he wrote about it in the Civics Bee competition.
I noticed how in my community, my peers and lots of adults are always constantly on their screens, whether it's in school or just outside with friends. There's always screens involved.
The National Civics Bee is a competition for middle schoolers that teaches kids the importance of being involved in their communities. Honda plans to host a town hall about screen time this fall at his school. He wants to invite mental health workers and other professionals to speak with students. In November, he's slated to compete at the national level in the Civics Bee in Washington, D.C. Cynthia Vaca-Davis, WHRO News.
Norfolk Commonwealth's attorney Ramin Fatahi won a hard-fought Democratic primary on June 17th, setting up for a clear path to re-election in November. WHRO's Barry Graham caught up with Fatahi to discuss the race and his vision for the future of the office.
Ramin, congratulations on your victory. Sort of a de facto re-election for you because this was actually the primary and there's been no announced candidate for you in the fall. So basically you have been re-elected with the primary win. Now, usually these local constitutional offices are kind of low-key affairs, not a lot of generated interest, but yours was one of the most closely watched races of the night. Why the sudden interest in this race?
I think it had to do with power and the shifting power dynamics in Norfolk politics. I've always been a political outsider here. I ran in 2021 over the opposition of the same group of both donors and elected officials who opposed me in 2025. And there really is no other logical explanation. If you look, every metric that matters in Norfolk was going in the right direction during my tenure. While I'm not responsible for the crime rate in Norfolk fell significantly. 42% for homicides, 40% for violent crime, 27% for property crime. Even shoplifting that was turned into a political cudgel is down almost 20% this year. And the jail population in Norfolk is half of what it was 10 years ago. So all of these are metrics of success. Normally, when you see a strong challenger to a sitting elected official, there is some reason, some problem. Here, it was about power, and it was about whether the group in Norfolk that likes to operate from the shadows was going to continue to be able to call shots, or whether the people were going to be able to call shots through their votes.
Let's talk about your vision for your next 4 years in office. What would you like to see out of the Norfolk Commonwealth's Attorney Office there?
I'd like to see the city address the chronic underfunding of my office. We are smaller now in terms of our total headcount than we were in 2006 and 2007, before the advent of digital evidence. And my last lawyer and my last dollar come from city council. Now that we have had a very tough and very expensive race where the people have spoken about the brand of justice that they want, I would hope that I can have a conversation with my fellow elected officials where we can work together to address some of the larger systemic problems that we see in justice in Norfolk that I just do not reach because I am not there. I'm also very excited about being able to bring additional initiatives to bear. I have been waiting for the last 4 years to work on second chances and expungements and sealing of records. The General Assembly passed a major reform of our expungement and sealing laws in 2020 that still hasn't taken effect. It was supposed to go into effect this year. Now it'll be next year.
What would you like to say to not only to the voters, but to all the citizens of Norfolk?
Public safety and civil rights are my calling. The numbers that we have seen drop in Norfolk, both in terms of crime and the jail numbers, show that the old false choice between having your rights respected and being safe is false. And we can see that in Norfolk. And that it has been always my goal that whether you're rich or poor, black or white, Republican or Democrat, connected or not, we are all equals. We are all equal citizens, and I will continue to devote my days and my nights and my weekends to making sure that we are both safe and that we are all treated as brothers and sisters.
You can hear the full conversation with Ramin Fatahi at WHRO.org.
This is WHRO's Weekly Edition. Remember, for any stories you've missed, you can visit us on the WHRO smartphone app or all social media platforms.
Newport News mayor is one of 10 people recently honored by the United States Junior Chamber for leadership and service in their communities. WHRO's Nick McNamara was on that story.
Phil Jones is one of 2025's 10 outstanding young Americans. Also known as the Toya program, it was created in 1938. The award is hosted by the Junior Chamber, a global nonprofit helping young people develop social responsibility, leadership, and entrepreneurship skills, annually recognizing 10 individuals under the age of 40 for personal and professional achievements and contributions to society. Jones took office in 2023. The youngest mayor in Newport News history. The 35-year-old Marine Corps Reserve Major says the honor is a reflection of the people of his city and what he calls a shared belief that bold leadership and community engagement can drive real change. Jones will receive the award at a ceremony in Raleigh this fall. Nick McNamara, WHRO News.
Local bird researchers say the osprey population is nearing complete collapse on Virginia's eastern shore. WHRO's Catherine Hafner has more.
When researchers started surveying the seaside of the shore in 1987, they found more than 80 osprey pairs. This year, they counted just 9 between Chincoteague and the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Tunnel. That's a drop of nearly 90%. Professor Brian Watts with William & Mary previously told WHRO that ospreys aren't producing enough offspring to maintain the population.
They were in the 1970s and 1980s. Once we get to the 2000s, they go underwater, and that has continued to get worse.
The reasons behind the steep decline aren't yet clear. Watts believes it's likely there's less fish available to eat. It's also possible the rebound of bald eagles plays a role, because they often steal food from osprey. Catherine Hafner, WHRO News.
The Trump administration moved to strip the name of civil rights icon Harvey Milk from a Navy ship. Critics worry the decision is part of a larger backlash against LGBTQ people. WHRO's Steve Walsh reported this story for NPR.
To one sailor, the USNS Milk was part of the bond with his Navy family.
I remember as soon as that happened, a lot of sailors, veterans landed up in Hillcrest, celebrated. We felt seen, recognized that a trailblazer like Harvey Milk was finally being recognized.
The lead petty officer is stationed in Norfolk. It's the current home of the ship named after the gay civil rights leader Harvey Milk. The sailor did not want his name to be used for fear of reprisals. He was stationed in San Diego on the day the ship was christened, on November 6, 2021.
Me and my group, we wore our Navy command shirt, had our little ball caps on, thinking we're cool, representing the Navy out here. It was a big deal for us.
It was a point of pride in his Navy career. He left California years earlier to join the Navy to escape a religious family who he did not believe would support him if he came out. Recently, when stories emerged that the Navy plans to remove Milk's name from the ship,
it was a punch to my gut. I was actually on the phone with a friend, and she's the one who told me. I looked it up, and I started crying.
He plans to finish his 20-year career in the Navy, but he says he has talked to junior sailors who say they plan to leave. After watching transgender troops being forced out, they worry this could be the beginning of a larger strategy to push LGBTQ troops out of the military.
How can I stand in front of my sailors, give them 150% of me, when at any point in time the coin can flip and I could be next? I could be the next one that they don't want in, just for being gay.
Before becoming a San Francisco supervisor, Milk was a Navy dive instructor in the 1950s until he was forced out because of his sexuality. USNS Harvey Milk was the second ship in the John Lewis class of Navy oilers. It was decided during the Obama administration that they would be named for civil rights icons. The names of other ships in the class are also under scrutiny, including a ship named after Thurgood Marshall.
If we politicize this process, which is largely what they are doing, then it turns into a tit for tat.
Carlos del Toro was Navy Secretary when the Milk was commissioned in 2021.
And so the next time you have a Democratic administration in place, for example, they could reverse the decisions made by the Republican administration.
He says the decision by the Trump administration is different from the congressionally mandated process which required the services to remove the names of Confederate icons, which led the Navy to take the typically unusual step of renaming the USS Chancellorsville. An analysis by the Center for American Progress estimates there are roughly 79,000 LGBTQ people serving in the military. Announcing the decision during Pride Month seems calibrated to send a message, Del Toro says.
It seems extremely vindictive to do it on that month. It's almost as if they want to impact pain on these individuals, emotional pain on them. It's just very, very unfortunate.
In a statement on the renaming, Pentagon spokesman Sean Parnell says Secretary Hegseth is committed to ensuring that all the names attached to all DoD installations and assets are reflective of the Commander-in-Chief's priorities. There has been no announcement that the ship renaming has officially happened or what the new name might be. Steve Walsh, WHRO News.
July 1st is the new fiscal year for the Commonwealth, which means new laws are now in effect. VPM News' Jad Khalil reports that many are about moms.
It's noon, 90 degrees and humid in Portsmouth. But General Assembly Democrats have gathered to show off legislation going into effect that impacts mothers.
This is a great day. It's a hot day, but it's a great day.
Virginia House Speaker Don Scott represents the preschool hosting the event. Childcare is one part of the legislative package. So is health insurance and expanding the maternal health care workforce.
We've made sure that we have healthy moms with healthy babies moving forward, and they have access to all of the care they need. Not just the OBGYN that we've traditionally seen, but doulas, midwives, pre- and post-maternal care, which is critical.
Black Democrats have been at the forefront of this particular effort and have called special attention to racial disparities. For example, the Virginia Department of Health says black mothers die within 42 days of giving birth at a rate twice as high as white mothers. This is State Senator Louise Lucas's district, too.
It's a real issue. It's not something that's made up, has nothing to do with race or DEI and all those other acronyms that they use to try to dispel the need for having to provide the funding for these programs.
She said if Democrats maintain their House majority this fall, more maternal health bills will arrive next session. Jad Khalil, VPM News.
An Isle of Wight county man accused of making more than 100 pipe bombs apparently will now plead guilty. We get more from WHRO's Barry Graham.
Federal agents arrested Brad Spafford at his home last December, finding homemade explosive devices, some labeled lethal, stored at several locations, including a garage freezer. Spafford was ordered held while awaiting trial, despite pleas from his attorney that he couldn't detonate the devices. Prosecutors said the fact that Spafford lost several fingers using the devices showed that he could, indeed, set them off. This week's filing indicates that Spafford now wishes to plead guilty. A pre-sentencing report will be conducted and a sentencing date will be set. Barry Graham, WHRO News.
You've been listening to WHRO's Weekly Edition. We had help today from WHRO's Ryan Murphy, Steve Walsh, Barry Graham, Catherine Hafner, Cynthia Vaca-Davis, Jad Khalil, and Nick McNamara. Thanks, too, to Chuck Dowd, who produced today's show. A reminder, you can always catch full episodes on the Weekly Edition podcast feed. You can get your news updates at WHRO.org, the WHRO smartphone app, and the WHRO Reports podcast feed. For all of us at WHRO and WHRV, I'm Doug Boynton. Stay safe. Be well.